Just tell me, like, when were you born and where?
December 27, 1963, and that was in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. Phnom Penh is the capital of Cambodia. So.
Could you tell me a little bit about your childhood?
Well, growing up, I was born there, but I don't live there. I live in a different province. Just like anybody else, just like any other child. But one thing that's different between my childhood and a lot of other people is that from the time I was born, or from the time I realized what's going on, to the time that we leave the country, has always been conflict, some kind of shooting on a day-to-day basis. The day that you don't hear any gunship goes off, that's when the day that you need to be more worried, because you don't know where it's going to be. How close. At about 1975, I was about 12 years old, and roughly about 12 years old, and that's when the Khmer Rouge, or the Red, the communist Cambodian, they overthrown the government and finally succeeded, and so we had to leave the country, leave the our home basically.
And when you say we
meaning my mom and dad, basically everybody, not just my family, but the propaganda is that they say that the American is bombing the city, so everybody needs to leave so it won't get hurt. But that's just propaganda. So most everybody pack up what their belonging, what they can, and leave their homeland to the countryside. And our family did the same thing. We, instead of go just near the countryside, we went a little farther out, and that's probably what saved my mom and dad, because most mom and dad, most folks that have any education, if they're doctors and or military personnel and all that, have been eliminated or executed one time or another. So because we're so far away from our normal peers, or my parents' normal peers, they didn't know who we were, and that's what saved them. And that's what I believe. It's not a proven fact, but that's what I believe. So live in this time between 75 to 79.
Where did you guys escape to?
Well, it's we left Battambang, this province called Battambang, to a smaller region about 60 kilometers or so.
Did y'all walk?
Yeah, we walked. Yeah,
we
walked. Yeah, pretty much. Have just a little bit of belonging, and then we walked. And so while we're there, we stayed there about 8 months or something. There, that's when the very first phase of this time. A lot of people missing, the losing family, and a lot of folks push into, like, it's similar to concentration camp, but it's more of a work camp. It's not too much of a concentration camp, but at that time everybody starved, pretty much starved to death. There are a lot of people die from starvation, and you look at a person, all you see is skin and bone. There's nothing else on them. You've probably seen some of the documentaries, like the Help the Children documentaries. Sometimes you see where the children can squat down, and their knee would pass their head because they're so skinny. There's nothing to stop them from. There's no resistance. There's no muscle resistance actually, and that's what I look like too. Just skin and bone. After a few months out there without any nutrition, any food to eat, what we have is just what we can find out there.
Right.
So it was pretty tough, but at the same time, looking back at it, it was a life learning experience that you never forget, and you appreciate what you have, and learn how to do with what you have too, and you know, appreciate, don't take anything for granted, basically. So after living through that phase for a little while, and you know, most of the children, once they get to be a certain age, they are separated from their parent to go in the workforce or work camp. You know, so my
Is
brother
this
and
how
I,
the government had it set up,
right.
where you guys had
This
to
is
go
how
to
the
work?
communist regime, that's the way they do it. And their way of controlling people is through starvation, is through feeding, through food. You work all day and you get to eat. If you don't work, then you're not getting to eat.
Right.
You know, and the days are long. You have to work from sunrise to sunset, and then you work 14 days straight, and then you have a day off. You know, and that one day, you know, you're basically just trying to catch up with yourself. Basically, you really can't do anything else. But you know, when you live in that environment, you know, I guess all human beings have the ability to adapt, and one of the adaptation to that is you kind of shut everything down to just necessity stuff. You know, what I mean by that is you're trying not to think about what tomorrow's going to be, how you're going to eat the next day, or how's your mom and dad and all that stuff. You can think about it, but you just can't do anything about it. So you just put it in the back of your mind that okay, they have to be okay. You know, you just trust. You know, and faith had to do a lot to do with that too. You trust and faith that they will be okay, and hopefully that they're not in worse shape than you are. You know, this goes on for years, and there's time that I live. Basically, what I have in my possession is a hammock and a hatchet, a small hatchet, and that's my possession in my one set of clothes. That's it. No shoe, no hat, no, nothing on that, and one spoon. That's the other thing. And all this ended when the Vietnamese invaded Cambodia. They liberated the people, but it depends on who you talk to. It would be an invasion or liberation, But during that time, that's when the Khmer Rouge pushed back to the countryside, out in the cities and whatnot, and that's when it was chaotic everywhere. Everybody trying to go back to their home, trying to go see if they can reclaim their home and all that stuff. My mom and dad has a different idea, is that the Vietnamese that invaded Cambodia or come into Cambodia, they're also communists. So they still have the same mentality. So instead of trying to go find a home and move back into it, we just write it off. It's like, we're not going back there. We're trying to find a different way to live. So that's when they decided, mom and dad decided, mainly my mom, because she's very strong, very solid, I guess I should say. And that is, we decided to leave the country. And so we start planning for I guess not escape, but I guess evade the country. At that time, there's no gunfire or anything like that anymore. So we start stocking up supply, food that you can carry without have to cook out in the fields and whatnot, because every day is like camping. You have to cook, use wood, to make fires and so on that.
And it wasn't getting on a plane and just flying. Of course not.
Not from that period, not from that area. So what we did, we walked from that province. It took us a month to walk from where we live. Well, one thing I want to make a note too, is that during that short period of time, we gathered a lot of food supplies and whatnot, and right before we left, we did my mom had up a charity type celebration, basically, and it happened to be on Cambodian New Year's. As a matter of fact, today Well, actually, yesterday was Cambodian New Year.
Oh, happy
So
New Year.
yeah, thank you. And during that occasion, all the excess that we can't carry, we know we can give to the people there. So we give, pretty much everybody there what little that we have, but it's more than what they have. And from there, we walk all the way toward the border of Cambodian and Thailand. And it's a pretty lengthy trip, but we travel as if not with a rush, but with a intent purpose to get to to the destination, and that is to cross the border to the other side. And throughout that journey was pretty harsh too, and it's in the dry season. It's really hot, and I've seen people going back and forth. Some people have carriages, horse and pull carriage and whatnot, but we walked. We didn't have anything to ride or anything like that, so we walked. And it takes a few long, hard days. I remember one day it was so hot, and it's like when you feel like there's nothing else inside of you, and all I see is the kilometer marker, the mile marker, like here, and that's what I do. I'm looking at the mile marker, and I just wait, and anticipate that mile marker. So when I get there, I sit on it for a second, and then you get up and go again. Wait and look at the next one. So you're looking at basically just doing one step at a time. Exactly. That's what it's boiled down to. And once we get to this last area, they call it Poom, meaning it's a small neighborhood. We stayed there for about a week, basically regrouping, and my dad and a couple of other older folks, they do some reconnaissance. They go and check out the route to leave, take the whole family leaving across the country, across the border. And one evening, or right after sunset, and everybody packed up and we left. So we leave at nighttime, and that night, once we get into the jungle, get into the wood area, we were supposed to meet up with a contact. But my dad did some reconnaissance, make some contact with the supposedly the Thai scout, basically. But we caught up with them for briefly, and then they said they lead us out, but they disappeared. They're gone. And out there in the middle of the night, we got robbed 3 times. Wow. At gunpoint, and of course you can't see anybody. All I heard was a gun blast, three shot, and because everybody on the ground, and they come through, basically search us real quick, and then they disappeared. And then we got up and moved some more, and that happened again. So wow. It's almost.
So do you think it was like people who were around there robbing?
No, I think personally, it was a setup. Because they know that when people move across the border, they may have some belonging that is valuable. Some people in the past been through there that have golds and some of the artifacts and so on that right. Are family possession. So that's what they're going after. So once we left there, when we cleared that area, we went to the refugee camp, or it's like a holding camp in Thai, and they're searchers. I mean, they're practically strip searchers. They get separated. Mom and dad, and all. They go through your clothing. They look at all the seam. This is the Thai soldier. They go through everything. We have some brown sugar it's kind of putty type thing. It's not really liquid, but it's not solid. So they think that we may have stashed some gold or something inside. So they dump this stuff out so to see what's inside, because there was nothing in there except the sugar. And food. That was food, and that was heartbroken, because this is like the last thing we have. Exactly. They dumped it, and So anyway, long story short is that we get to that camp, and then 2 days later we were transported from that camp to this camp called Lumpini. Lumpini is one of the last refugee camp you can stay, and then they decide whether put you back to the back into the country, or you can be sponsored to leave from there. So what we did, we were shipped to that. Actually, one more camp prior to that. That's when we get registered with the U.S. Embassy or something like that. I remember that we had to go through a few different phases just to get ready, and one of those phases was personal hygiene. They're trying to tell you and trying to educate us as to how to act, how to behave when we come to the United States or foreign language, foreign country. As a matter of fact, there's a young man. He is African American, very light skinned person. And as a matter of fact, that's the first time I've seen an African American person.
Wow.
When I was in Thailand, and he showed us about like some of the basic alphabets and stuff like that. And the process takes about a week or something like that. He come every day basically. I'm pretty sure he was a volunteer, come just helping us out. And that's when I learned my first word, and that was pencil.
Wow.
My first word was pencil. I thought it was interesting because that is the basic of everything else. The writing to knowledge basically.
Right.
So that's kind of cool. But so then we fly to the United States, and first place we land was San Francisco.